Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's FileMaker training series webinar. My name is Mike Crook. I'm the marketing manager here at FileMaker in the UK. I have with me Kieran Saunders, our FileMaker product specialist.
Good afternoon, everyone.
So before Kieran gets started, I'd just like to say if you have any questions during the course of this session, feel free to ask them using the questions panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll do our best to answer as many of those as we can towards the end of the session. We'll also be running a few polls during the course of this webinar, so please do interact with those. They give us some great feedback on how to improve future events. That's all from me until we get to that question section I mentioned earlier, so over to Kieran to get started.
Thanks, Mike. So let's have a look at the agenda, what we're doing today. So we're going to look at how you start off a FileMaker solution, how you start off your system. We're going to be zooming in on importing some data from an existing spreadsheet that you may have. And then we're going to look at sort of zoom out again and really look at a bit more about the design of a solution and look at user-centered design methodology. We're following, of course, the FileMaker Training Series Basics book that you can download and use the files and follow along in the chapters. So once we've looked at a design methodology, we're going to then look at maybe designing a layout and achieving those goals. So let's have a look at getting started. So after opening up a FileMaker, we can see that there's several ways of getting involved. There is using a starter solution. Now I've got one in front of me here that has some data in it, and you get to those from going up to FileMaker, File, and New from Starter Solution. Now we've got plenty of different solutions, one hopefully that will suit your need, from an asset database to a contacts one, content management, which is a really nice one to hold all your digital assets, event management, down to meetings and invoices, which is another very nice one, quite a complex one, that which is a good learning file to get going with. Once you open them up, they will be blank. This one has a few records in it just to sort of show what it would look like. They generally all come with different layouts for the different devices. So if we pop down the layouts, you'll see that there's layouts in here for the desktop, the iPad, the iPhone, and the web. So I can bring over an example of, this is the same solution, but in my web browser here, so I can see, I can go and look at different things from within our web browser, but it's looking at exactly the same file. So you can see it's on my server in brackets, and it's the same file here, so that we're looking at, but obviously designed for the different platform. So if we go into one of these, go into the look here, you can see that we can go into a layout mode. You're logged in as admin. You can really go into here, delete any of the fields that you don't like, rearrange them, go into the file structure from File Manage Database, and add fields and add your different tables and relationships and so on. So it's completely open for you to learn from and to modify to your wishes. So that's the asset starter solution. So starter solutions are one way of starting. The other is completely empty, so we can start a new database, give it a name, and get started. That will drop the file onto your desktop, and it starts off completely and utterly empty, so there's nothing in there at all. And you can start going in and to manage database. You can start adding your tables in and adding the fields in as you go, name and so on. So you can start creating your fields completely from scratch. So that's the other way of getting started. Just cancel this file. So the other way of getting started is from Excel. So this is quite a nice way of sort of getting started, because we can make use of these the labels up the top here to actually start building your fields. Because we're importing some data along with it, you start working with the actual data sort of in line. So you sort of, it's a nice way of doing it, and plus you're working with your own data. So let's have a look at how you do that. So the first or one method is just to drop your file onto the icon, FileMaker icon, and then choose field names as the first row, or you should build your Excel so the first row will have the labels of the data, the name of the fields. So we click OK, and then I think we're going to name this one equipment rentals. This is that's the name we're going to give it. Okay, so equipment rentals onto the desktop and save that file. Oh, there's already a file there. Just let me save that as a slightly different file name. Okay, so that's brought our data in. It's created two layouts for us, layout 1 and 2. Layout 2 is in a table name, so we can a table view, sorry. So we can look at the data, we can sort it, and maybe even do a bit of searching, find all the matching records for CA for California. So we can do some very quick searching in here. So that's great. It's given us two layouts. Like I said, the first layout is a form layout, and that's a record by record view of the data. So this is customer information, and we can sort of browse through our customer information or search like we just did. So let's. The first thing we want to do is just to go into the File Manage database again and look at the Table tab, as it's named our first table the name of the file that we gave it, Equipment 2, Rentals 2. So we just need to change that to customers, and we hit the change button, and so on. You could go and create some more tables as well. So that's the way to rename the first table name. And there's the fields that we've got on. So you could go in here and change the type if you so wish, but it's recognised where it's a number and brought that in. And because we've done a search on the state, look, it's indexed that field to help us do faster searches in the future. Okay, so that was the first sort of part, either importing directly sort of dropping that file onto the FileMaker icon. So let's do the second group. So I've got another Excel file here. This was the customers, and this is the assets that went along with it. As you can see, we've got an asset ID and a customer ID here that ties this bit of data back to the other Excel file. So let's import that. So we have to go up to File and Import Records from a File, and choosing that the assets Excel file. Open that up. And we come into the import field mapping dialog box, and this is where you can see on the left hand side here is the source file. So that's the assets Excel file with it's found the names and the field names in there. On the right hand side is the target, where it's going to go. At the moment it's set to go into the current table, the customers table. We don't want that. We want to create a new table. So again, it's just taking the name of the file. So that might be a horrendously silly name. Some of these Excel files have got funny name, so you could still bring it in under that new table and then rename it as we did for the customers table. So we've changed it to a new table, but you can see the target fields now, it's just calling them F1, field 1, field 2, and so on. It doesn't know what to call them. So if we hit this checkbox down here, don't import the first record, it contains field names, you can see that it's copying that first row in the Excel file over to the target fields. And you can click this little icon here to go through the records just to check yourself that all the data is going into the right place. You can hit the arrow in the middle here to say don't import it. If it's just a dot instead of the arrow, it won't import. And you can grab these and resort them so that the data comes into the relevant fields. You can even go off into the managed database and start creating other fields if you so wish. So let's hit import. It gives us a little summary with 29 assets have just come in, and it's created a layout for us again so that we can see that data. So that looks great. So that's two bits of data that have just come in. So let's just show you around the views. So we've got the form view here. We've got a list view, so we can see the data in a list, one long list there. Or we can flip over to the table view again to actually see the date, so sort of more the sort of data without any formatting on it. So let's have a quick look at just doing some very quick searching, sorting, and then we'll create a quick chart. So if we click on the little arrow there, the blue arrow on the category, seems like a good one. Let's create a chart on the categories of the data, the assets. So if we can sort that data down, and then clicking on that button again, we can go down to chart by category. And that'll then try and build up a chart for us. Luckily, it's done it pretty well. We've got the categories of the assets going, and then a summary account of how many we've got in each category, which is great. We can then, bottom right here, we can save this into the layout. Save it as a layout, save it into our database file, and then we can go and look at that bit of data whenever we want that chart. And that chart, of course, will be updated as the users are starting to use this solution. Okay, so let's just go back to that asset side, and I'll go back to the form and just quickly go over some themes and styles, how you do this. So at the moment, if we go into edit layout mode, we can see that the theme is enlightened at the moment. So we can click on the button there and bring up a little dialog box to change that theme. So there's a nice enlightened print one. If you are going to do a printed form, maybe you just want it as clean as possible, very white. Doesn't look very pleasing on the eye when you're using it, but it's great for printing. Sophisticated is one of my favorites, and we can go off and change that theme look and feel. So all of the objects, in fact, there's not many in this layout, so I'll just create a few to show you, but it will change all the objects based on style. So let's create a few buttons just to give you an idea. So say you're building some buttons to run some scripts of intelligence. We can bring up the inspector window. Just drag that along. And you can see in the styles part of the inspector window, we've got different styles for this object. If we select a edit box, we can see we've got two styles there and several more for the button. So we can see each style that we've given to you in that theme is slightly different colors. So of course you can, if we just create another button here, we can see that we can add into this, we can change this button or create our own entirely different style. So maybe I want to make this just a slightly darker blue. We can change that. And then we can see up here under the style, we can see that it's the arrows there has gone red. We can click and we can save that into the current style if we so wish. And hopefully this button should update. As you can see, it did. So using styles is very, very powerful. It makes your layouts and your forms really pop. And by using styles, you can see how very quickly you can change the look feel of your system by modifying a style and then having that style go over all of your different objects. So that's styles. So let's just go back. Let's go back and see where we got to. So let's do a quick quiz just to go over that getting started part. So if you wouldn't mind answering the question, so what are the three primary methods for creating a new solution? So is it beginning with a starter solution, importing data from another source, creating a solution from scratch, or writing a FileMaker system with a text editor? Okay, I'll just close that poll and share the results with everybody. So yes, it's the first three. So as we've just seen, you can start with a starting solution. If you get a starter solution, sort of hits 95% of what you need out of that solution, you can start using that and modifying it. You can import data from an Excel file, or you can just absolutely start from scratch. Just start from a blank page. So I'll show this in a minute because I didn't highlight this bit. But when you go to a file import, what are the following? What are the file formats that can be brought into a FileMaker Pro solution? What data file is compatible? We use the first one, of course, the Excel. But take a wild stab at two others. There's two others that are compatible. Okay, I'll just close that poll and just share those results. So, yeah, most of you got that right. It's from an Excel file or from a comma separated or a tab separated text file. So these are very common file formats to exchange data. A comma separated one, as it suggests, is a row of data separated by a comma to highlight when it's the next field, and then a carriage return for the next sort of record. And exactly the same, but instead of a comma, it's a tab, separated values but they're both text files. So that's great. So we can import them and export to those file formats. So what would you do if if you had a file and the file format could not be converted directly into a FileMaker Pro file, if you couldn't import it, what would you do? Would you, and these are up to you really, but would you call a developer? Would you convert the file to a supported format and then import it? Or would you call technical support? Okay, I'm just going to close that poll. That was a fast result. So yes, you convert the file to a supported format. So a lot of programs will allow you to save as a comma saturated file, for example. Even some allow you to save as an Excel. So you would just convert that file into a supported format. Sometimes you just need to cut and paste that data into an Excel file is a good technique. But yeah, absolutely. Right. So let's go back to the keynote. So we're just going to go over some of the basic principles for a user-centered design. So the top three really are the most important thing to do is to observe the users, and the second is to keep in mind that the technology should serve those users, and you should test with the end users, and we'll go into what that means in more detail. So we kind of user-centered design is kind of challenges you to try and think differently. It's trying to use other design tools, and strangely, our whole message for the last year or so is all about converting your paper processes to iPads. But this is the one sort of stage, this is the one thing that I recommend that people do use a paper and a pencil or a whiteboard. And it's really useful when designing a system to knock out those ideas, that it is useful to just get it down on pen and paper and just step away from the computer. The other one is you borrow design patterns from other places. So if you're going to be building an iPhone application in FileMaker, go and have a look at other apps on the app stores, see how they're built, see how the flow goes, where is the back button, where is the export button, where are these things generally are, and what icons do they use, and borrow them. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't try and create your own icon that no one knows what it means. Try and look at other patterns out there. And remember that putting everything on one layout is not necessarily better, or it's definitely not better. So keep it clean, basically. So the other methodology really is that you design goals rather than features. So it's very easy to get trapped into the features. It must do this, 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 and this. But actually what you should be thinking is stepping back, and it's much more about the business goals. What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to do? Not about how to do it, but what's the end goal? So for an example, if you're looking at this product on the left, the car, it's got four wheels. Yes, it's got a transmission connecting the engine to the wheels. Yeah. It's all mounted on a metal chassis, and it's got a steering wheel. Fantastic. Okay, we've got to a car. But actually, if you start looking at designing the goals, that you need this device to cut grass, and it must be comfortable to sit on. I'm not sure if that device is comfortable to sit on. I've never done one yet. But you can see that the end result is a lot different if you actually really do define down to the goals rather than the features. So another technique is to use the squint test. So when looking at a layout, this is the more things are not necessarily better. If you do the squint test and you have a look at one of your forms, for an example, our web page, or one of our old web page now, as we've just changed it, I must update that icon. But you can see, if you squint, you can see what pops out of that, what pops out from that page. So it's really useful. If all that's popping out is useless bits of information, maybe a label or something like that, then maybe you need to rethink what you're trying to present to your users on your layout. So it's a very quick one, just to quickly squint at your layout and see what comes out. So in order to to support the looking at the goals, this is a quite nice way of writing down these goals in a design brief. So it follows the design A dot 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 for A dot 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 to A and with. So if you follow those with all of your goals, you'll come out with a good brief and a good way of staying on course. So in this example, we want to design a custom asset tracking solution for the operations team. Who is it for? To know which customers have which assets. So that's the goal, and they want to do it as fast as accurately as possible. So a pretty easy brief. And then some sort of additional things would be nice. It would be nice to know when an asset was purchased, when it was given to the customer, how much the asset cost, maybe a bit of signature capture for when assigning that asset, some notes, a bit of business intelligence. So how long has the customer had the lease for each asset, and the total cost. So maybe we'll look at a bit of security. So we want to be able to modify some of the security on this file, and just make sure that users can't delete any customers or assets. That would be a good security step. And we'll build a little report to see how each sort of the total cost, or the total cost of all the assets per customer would be a nice bit of intelligence. So let's have a look at that design. So we're going to go back to our solution that we've just imported from the Excel, and let's actually start designing a layout. So the first design brief was to build a customer asset tracking solution to know which customers have assets. So if we pop over, let's actually just we'll create a new layout, let's say. So create a new layout. And we're going to just base it on a computer and a form. That's fine. And we're going to call it customers. And we're going to base it not on assets, but we're going to base it on the customers table. Okay. So let's just quickly drop a logo in there just to make that look. Drop the company logo in there. Maybe put a label up here. Okay, great. And then let's drop some fields on there. So let's put on the left-hand side, let's just put the company and the website down there on the left-hand side there. Great. And maybe some of that, maybe some of the address information on the other side there. Okay, well that's great. So we've got a bit about if we go to browse mode there, we can see, okay, we're starting to build that up. This is the company things, the customer information, but we want to see the assets that are related to that customer. So for that, we have to go into File Manage Database. We've got our two tables here. We've got customers and assets, but we need to link them together. So luckily, we've already had that done for us in the Excel file. So we've already had a customer ID linking that bit of information. So what we have to do is drag that along. If we double click in that box, we can see this is where you would change it maybe, but we can see that we want to see where customer ID equals customer ID and filter that. So that's the relationship we want for the assets. And to view that relationship, we're going to use a portal. So up in the tools, when we're in edit layout mode, we can see if the tooltip comes up, we can see this is the portal tool. So we can just draw this portal on. Let that go, and then show related portals from. So if nothing's here, you haven't got your relationship quite set up quite right. So you can go into Manage Database from here, but it seems to be okay. So from assets, that's great. Maybe we'll show a vertical scroll bar that will allow us to go down our records. Maybe we'll only show, I don't know, let's say 8. Yeah, and that's great for that screen. So the next one is, what are we going to show? What do we want to show on here? So let's show the item, the model, maybe the category, and maybe the purchase date. Let's just show that bit of information there. That's great. So let's just drag that out a bit, give us a bit of room. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Well, that's great. We can see related assets per customer. So that's quite nice and easy. So what else do we see? Well, it would be quite nice to actually have the cost on here. So let's edit that. And actually, I'm going to change this purchase date to the cost field instead. And then we're going to need to create a new field to show the total. We're going to have to calculate that bit of information. So we can do that from the field picker here. And I'm going to do total costs. We're going to make it a calculation field. And we're going to, from the assets table, we're going to wrap the assets cost around a sum calculation field. Now you can find sum from within here as well, so we could have double clicked it from here. I'll do it a different way instead of free typing it. So sum, and which fields do you want to calculate? The sum of the assets costs, which is great. The calculation result, of course, has to be a number. We don't want it coming back as text, and hopefully that should be okay. So let's see how that looks. I'll just drag that onto our form underneath the portal. Seems to make sense. It could be anywhere, of course. And let's see how that looks. Well, that's fine. Let's just make these into a currency. Let's sort of format these. I'm just going to shift and select both of these fields and bring up the inspector window under data down the bottom here. Let's go and make them under the data formatting. I'm going to make that a currency and just bring that up for me and just make sure that's a pound symbol. That's great. Yeah, okay. That's hopefully okay. Let's see what that looks like. I'll just drag that field out a bit. Okay, so let's go through a line. So we can see we've now got a, that's one part of the spec was to find out what the total cost for each customer was. So that's great. Well, let's do a bit more, bit of intelligence, and let's go and put a little button in this portal so that we can go to the particular asset in more detail. So I'm just going to put a button in the portal row. It's got to be within that first little row there. And I'm going to go to related record, and I'm going to get a related record from a customer. I'm going to go to the, from asset, of course, and go to the asset table. I'm not going to show a new window, it's just going to go there. Let's see how that looks. So I could say detail maybe. I have to make that text rather a lot smaller. Let's just drag that over to the side. Let's see if that works. It's got to be right in the, yeah, that just about went in. So let's see, it's a 15-inch notebook. And clicking on that detail page will take us to the asset layout. From the customer layout, it will take us to the relevant asset layout now, looking on that. So that's great. Okay, that's a bit of a nice bit of intelligence there. There was some notes. He wants us to capture some notes, so maybe we go and add a notes field into this layout. Just create one. Nice notes field. Let's try that again. And then drag that over. Make that a multi-line field. There you go. So I can now start putting some notes into here. So let me reorder it. So it looks, you can notice all these the dynamic guides coming up, these blue guides, which helps me position everything. Okay, so I can now start typing in some notes on this customer, which is great. Oh, sorry, this asset. Right, what was the other one? The signature capture. So we won't be able to see this in action, but it'll be very easy to just add a new field, signature, and I need to make that the container field, so I can drag that over as well. And that then, when viewed on an iPad, will enable you to put a signature in there from the iPad touchscreen. Okay, so the last bit of intelligence that was required was to see how long the customer has leased each asset. Well, we've got the in-service date, so that's when they first started leasing it. What we need to do is a calculation based on today's date and to calculate the lease time. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, we can do that from the field picker tool. Create a new calculation. So lease length, let's call it. and that's a calculation. So again, the calculation window comes up. So we're going to do a calculation, and we're going to use one of the get functions. So these are all the functions on the side here. So you can do everything from textual functions, so make the first letter a capital, let's say, formatting, make it red, whatever different number, different formatting you want, number functions and dates, obviously, to find calculation on this quarter's sales, let's say. But the get functions are quite interesting in that they go and get some sort of live data, some dynamic data, and one of those is get current date. So that's quite a nice one. So that's nice and easy, get current date, and we're going to minus the in-service date. So I need the result to be, I want this to be a number. I could make it a date, but it makes much more sense to be a number in this case. And let's see how that looks. Into browse mode. So you can see if we to change this date, that wouldn't make any sense, to 14. That number automatically gets recalculated and would based on today's date as well. So we can see how many days that has been in lease. So a great little bit of intelligence, and we could wrap that up. Maybe there's some another business intelligence that means that it can't be over 50 days. Maybe there's that needs to be renegotiated on a contract or something. If we right click on any object within FileMaker, we can select conditional formatting, and we can very quickly put make the formatting of the object changed based on some date within itself, within the field itself, or with another field. But if we just say is greater than 50 in this case, then make that text go a red color just to highlight there's some kind of something needs to be done about it. So let's have a look there. Yeah, so we can see if we were to make that smaller, then we should let's actually change that. We can see it changes back to black. So okay, all looking good. So let's start looking at maybe putting some security on this file. So to do that, we go to File, Manage Security. We can see for default, every FileMaker file is opened up with the admin password. Now, the admin account, there's two, there's guest and admin, and it's opening up with admin. Of course, admin having full access, so can do everything. And we've also given you two other privilege sets, they're called, which control what people can do or users can do. One being data entry. You can write access to all records, but no design access. You can't change the look feel of the layout or add any calculations or anything. And the read only, which is pretty obvious, but you can read all the data, but you can't change any of it. So we've given you some default ones here. You can of course edit, create a brand new one, or duplicate. I like to duplicate the read only one, and then start editing that one. Maybe call that the users and what they can do. So we can go into, maybe on the records, we could go in and just say they can view all only in tables, which would be a nice one. But we could go into here and say yes, they can view. But one of them was that they definitely couldn't delete. Maybe they should be able to create there on both. And maybe they can edit the assets but not edit the customer information. You can even go to a limited. This limited option here opens up the calculation engine, and you can really expand, and it's very flexible about when this is true. They can or cannot edit that record. So that's pretty good. So we've got a nice new account called users, which is fine, and we can then assign different accounts. So new user 1, let's say, with a password, and you can assign it to the brand new privilege set there. So that's great. So that's going into privileges, how you would, a very quick overview of privileges, but how you would start to allow people to come into your file with some security on it. So of course I have to okay what I've just done. So of course you want to change that admin password very quickly. Again, two options you need to go into. One is file options, and untick this logging in using, as it's logging in user admin no password. So you want to untick that. As soon as you do, you'll be challenged for username password every time it opens. And the next, of course, is just to go in and rename that admin account, either rename it and certainly put a password onto there to make it much more secure. Okay, so the last one was to do a report. So let's go ahead and build up a little asset report. So we go into Edit Layout mode, and we go to New Report. This time, yeah, we're going to make sure we're on the asset database. We want to do an asset report. Give it a name. I'm going to choose computer there, and I'm going to choose the report, which is fine. Choose landscape this time, just to get a bit of... Right, okay, so next we're going to say we're going to include subtotals and grand totals. I don't think we'll use them, but I'll select that and use it anyway. What we're going to put in here, well, we want to see the item, the model, and the cost, of course. We need the cost. Okay. And from the customers, we're just going to maybe use that total cost and the company name. Okay. Click Next. So we're going to organize it by company. So you can see this little diagram here of just showing you what it may look like. Sorting by company is fine. Adding some sub-summary data. No, I don't think we'll add any. And let's see how that looks. I'm going to go over over that one. I always recommended creating a script. You can always delete it later and check run automatically. Normally this just runs a sort order so that the chart looks okay. So it never looks right the first time, but let's have a look at what it's doing here. So it's not sorting, so let's do that. Sorting on category, I want to sort it on the company, and the script should have done that. Okay, so we've got the total cost is within the sort of body. Well, we don't want that. We want that outside of that. So let's go in first off. That was wrapping, so let's make that a little bit longer. And let's see how it's looking. So let's go out of here and maybe put total cost at the top here. You would probably put it down the bottom, but you can... Well, actually, it doesn't look too bad there. Maybe just reposition these two. And actually, we can take company out as it's sorted by company. Let's put that total cost up there. Let's see how that looks. Something like that. So you could format it, of course, and put currency formatting on these. But there's a very simple report based on companies and what assets they've got and the total cost. So a nice little report. And of course, you could modify this and expand it for what information you needed. You would maybe put it into a reports folder here, so you could get access to that more easily. And put a button, of course, with the go to layout elsewhere in your system to access that report. Okay. So I think we've hit all of the criteria. We've built a where do we go? Not onto the assets, we've got a company logo. We could clean all this up. Let's clean this up quickly. Show you how to do that. If we go into layout mode and manage layouts, I can just delete the first two layouts there that FileMaker created for me. Maybe put customers at the top. We've got assets, chart. Maybe I will add a quick folder called reports and drag that report underneath that report. So we've now got some nice ordering. So let's see how that looks now. So if people were to use this tool, they could go in and see customers, assets, the reports, and a nice little chart as well. So it's starting to become a system, a usable system. So we've got the customer layout. We can search and find a customer. We can see what assets are related to that customer. We can see the total cost very quickly here as well. We can go into the details of that asset. So I could put a logo up there to make it look nicer and so on. On the iPad, you'd be able to take a signature if that person was signing this out. We could quickly see a sort of a lease length based on a calculation based on the current date minus the in-service date, and some other nice little information, including sort of adding in notes about that asset as well. So we also built that report that we just did, and yeah, and I think we've hit most of those sort of design briefs, the sort of goals really. So let's go and see how much of that you took in, and let's have a little quiz. So going back to the keynote, right sort of in the middle, from sort of the idea, the methodology of user-based centric methodology, who do you think you should really test your solution with? Once you've built this up, say you've got to this stage, who should you go and see and say, how did I do? Should you go to a third-party company, do some testing with a third-party customer and spend some money on that? The lead project leader, the person signing the checks, should you go see them? Or should you put some time in the diary to go see the end user, the people really going to be using the solution and can tell you whether you've got it right or not? Yeah, absolutely. It's not an easy thing to do because you've got to go and see some people who are already doing a job. They don't really want to see you, but you've got to try and make time and include them in the project and really get to see whether what you've done is going to make their jobs easier and is going to work. So yeah, the end user. So when designing your solution, which is true? Start building straight away in FileMaker Pro or start with a pen and paper? And this is a difference, I suppose, between which is true and which you should do. Just share those results. Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people did just start building straight with FileMaker Pro, but it's so much better just to go back and start with a pen and paper and really look at that design. And last one, just a fun one. So how do you do the squint test? Okay, thanks for that. So yeah, you just squint to look at the page, try and see what pops out at you. What's people are going to sort of instantly, their eye is going to be attracted to, and is that the most important thing that you should be putting on your layouts? Okay, that's great. That's it for the polls and almost it for the presentation. So if you're finding these training series webinars useful, we'd love to invite you down to Reading on the 19th of February. It's a whole day, including 4 different tracks, and also as a bonus, you will be signed up, you'll be phoned by someone on the team and be slotted in for a 15-minute one-on-one with a FileMaker expert. Some of our most brilliant minds in FileMaker around the country come and help support us. They run the sessions as well as have these one-on-one sessions with people, so you can bring a file, you can bring a calculation they're having problems with, you just want to talk about your particular business problem. They're not just the developers, they're the business sort of change managers as well, so they've got a lot of experience about lots of different things. So please come along and have a chat with them. It's a really great day, and we get lots and lots of very positive feedback. It is a beginner's event, so if you are sort of intermediate, I'm not sure how much you're going to get out of this, but it's for people who really want to get up to speed with FileMaker, it's a great day. And we get to use a brand new, the UTCs are university technical colleges. They're brand new sort of establishments, and they have computer suites. So you actually get hands-on actual training, which is great. So please think about coming along to that. Our next webinar is based on the relationships chapter. So we're going into relationships and how they work, and that's the 20th of February at 12 o'clock. So please sign up and come along to those.